Right, good evening everyone and welcome to this meeting of Council. I am Councillor Richard Fleming and as Mayor I will be chairing this meeting. I would like to welcome fellow councillors, the officers and members of the press and public in the gallery and those of you watching on YouTube. We now move on to item 1, apologies. Do we have any apologies, Becky?
Apologies from Councillors Cope, Glenville, Hollick, Stead Davis and Walker.
Thank you very much, Becky. Item number 2, minutes of the previous meeting. Would somebody like to move the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of December?
Formally moved, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Do we have a seconder?
Yes. Second those, Mr Mayor.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Bray. Do we have a seconder?
Second those, Mr Mayor. Thanks.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. The motion is carried and the minutes are approved. Item number 3, urgent business. We do have an urgent motion this evening that is printed in your supplementary agenda and will be taken at the end of this meeting as agenda item 13. I have agreed to accept this motion as the information on which it is based was received after the agenda had been published. Item 4, declarations of interest. Do we have any members declaring an interest? Please raise your hand if you would like to state said declaration. No, it looks like there are no members stating a declaration of interest, so we'll move on to item 5, Mayor's communication. First of all, I am honoured to be able to present a long service award tonight to a member of staff who's been with the Council for 25 years, Sarah Booth. Sarah joined the Council in November 2000, starting out as an administration assistant in the Environment Services. It was a memorable time to join, given that we had just introduced curbside and fortnightly bin collection. That might have been right, actually. While the rest of us were still figuring out which bin was which. Sarah was on the front line handling an avalanche of calls from confused and sometimes very irate residents. If she didn't already have a patience of steel, then she certainly developed it quickly. Sarah's previous line manager, Anne Neal, saw her potential and considered her a rising star. Anne was apparently quite heartbroken when Sarah left to join Human Resources in 2004, where she flourished. Starting as an HR assistant, she steadily grew into a highly respected senior HR advisor we rely on today. Whether it's disciplinary issues, grievances, sickness and absence, pay grading or training, Sarah approaches everything with professionalism, calmness and that trademark ability to get right to the heart of an issue. Across the organisation, Sarah has earned a reputation for being balanced, pragmatic and trustworthy. Managers and colleagues generally value her honesty and sound judgment. Within HR, Sarah is part of the glue that keeps our small team so strong and stable. With barely any staff turnover, they have built a close-knit, supportive service, one that's essential for helping our wider workforce deliver great services to residents. Sarah embodies that commitment every day. Over the years, the HR team has also had the joy of being part of Sarah's personal milestones, from celebrating her marriage to Tim and becoming a wonderful mum to her 2 daughters, Poppy and Daisy. Please join me in thanking Sarah for her service to the Council and to the community that we serve. Sarah, please come up and collect your certificate. Well done. Thank you very much. Check the photo.
She'll be paying it to herself. Thanks, Sarah. Do you want to give a song if you want?
No.
Thank you, Sarah. I will now update you on my recent activities. Well, from the list, you can see basically it was based over 2 weeks just before Christmas, where the Mayoress and myself, we actually attended in 14 days 8 carol services and 2 services around the tree. So by the time of that, we actually didn't need a hymn sheet or carol sheet. We were word perfect. But we had a wonderful time going around all the villages for their carol services. Also, other things we did was the Hinckley Fest and Craft Fair on the 14th of December, which was fun. There was a lot of activity, more than I actually thought was going to go on there. And another memorable evening was attending the Athena for the Leicestershire and North Warwickshire and South West Leicestershire College Award evening, and it was fantastic to see what the students had achieved. On the 27th of January, we both attended the Holocaust Memorial Day event at De Montfort University, which was actually very moving because there were still one or two survivors from the Holocaust who were there and made speeches as well. Last but not least, one of the fun bits is on the 16th of February, we both attended the Mayor of Oby and Wixton's Curry Charity Night, which is a very good evening, believe me, yes. The Deputy Mayor also accompanied me on to unveil the Ada Lovelace statue, which is now available to view down by the Atkins building. Right, that's my lot, so we move on to item 6, questions. We have one question tonight, which is from Councillor Sutton to the Executive Member of Planning. Councillor Sutton, you have the response in your supplementary agenda. Do you have any supplementary questions of the member?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I've got the question in. I hope people read the last paragraph because I think it's very important. I think more people should take notice of the last paragraph. And I can't understand why more people aren't involved in the consultation when they realise how serious it is for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. We now move on to item 7, petitions. We do not have any, have not been notified any petitions at the moment, so we'll move on to item 8, Leader of the Council's position statement. Before we start this item, may I respectfully remind members to only speak on matters that are raised by the Leader in his position statement. So therefore, Councillor Bray, would you like to present your statement?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you see, there is quite a lot on the statement. As usual, I won't read it out, but I will draw members' attention to a few things. Firstly, I thank the officers in the street scene services who are beginning the rollout of the various equipment and the service for the new food waste collection service. This is a government legislation service. This is not something that we have that we've chosen to do. It's something that we are forced to do, and I know it's put an awful lot of work on that team, so I thank them for that. I also thank officers for putting on the new sports awards. It's always a great event to celebrate our sporting success in the borough. I next highlight some of the work that the executive has done, and I want to thank Maddie Shellard in particular, who can't be with us tonight, but I'd like to thank her and Sharon and others and Chris Brown for putting together the work on the Article 4 direction. I know this is causing an awful lot of concern across the area and about the number of HMOs that are being converted, and we are trying to do what we can to undertake that. Now, since issuing my statement, I'm afraid things have taken a rather sinister and concerning turn. The Member of Parliament for Hinckley and Bosworth has issued a social media post seeking to deflect responsibility for asylum seekers onto the council, and has given out my name and contact details as the person responsible. Now, I'm not sure if he is simply unaware that the placing of asylum seekers in private accommodation is being done by Serco on behalf of the Home Office. He certainly should be, as it was a policy that his government introduced. Or if he does know this, he's trying to play party politics for his own ends. Either way, it is extremely irresponsible. I can confirm that both the local police and also Operation Ford police team, they are the people who were set up following attacks on public officials, are looking at the post, and also concerns about my personal safety from far-right groups, which such irresponsible posts undoubtedly inflame. I am grateful to the police and our officers for their support on this matter. I think this is an opportune moment to remind all members to be careful when undertaking their public duties, and I will ask our officers if they can circulate once more the various LGA guidance on personal safety and remind members to ensure that their security devices are charged and that you carry them with you at all times. Moving on to other items. Local government reorganisation. Obviously, we are now in the middle of the consultation period. We know what this councillor's view is and my view is on this. I wish the government would add this to the growing list of U-turns, but if they don't, I strongly believe that the North City South proposals are accepted. We've heard the sad news that once again we're losing another bank in Hinckley Town Centre, with Lloyds announced its closure. But I am pleased that at least they are introducing a banking hub which will ensure that there is a presence in the town. This is no substitute for a branch, but it is better than nothing. I do mention the Hinckley case. I'm not going to say any more about that now because we've got the debate later today. I am pleased that we're able to take forward the biodiversity net gain habitat bank through Burbage Common, and I also mentioned, as you did, Mr Mayor, the David Lovelace statue. I congratulate the community organisers for it, but also thank our officers for the part that they played. We mentioned the decision that was taken on a cross-party basis about the crematorium and we're getting the private sector to undertake that for us. And I thank all members for their stance taken on that. And I finish with the events programme for 2026, which again is very important. Just off, not on the statement, but just a last-minute thing. I have heard today that the Fair Trade Forum is being relaunched on the 24th of February. So if anybody is interested in that, please let me know, and I'll send you the details. And I also meant to say at the start, Mr Mayor, I just want to pass on best wishes of the whole Council to the Leader of the Opposition for his recent bereavement. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and I thank the Leader of the Council for his kind wishes. So, just working through, so the food waste rollout, we've actually received our caddy today, much to the disappointment of our two Labradors who have been fulfilling that particular role very well to date. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of take-up that service actually takes, and hopefully the government will fulfil their promise to fund that service. We have to have huge respect to everyone who participates and actually enables people to participate in sport in the borough. I'd have to admit I'm probably not one of them, but Claire is, so everyone who's involved in that, huge respect to them. The Article 4 direction, it's a matter of huge concern to a great many of our residents. It's good to see that the council is actually taking some action on this, and hopefully we'll consider similar protection for any other areas around the borough that see similar kind of clusters of such developments coming up. It should be noted that HMOs aren't just for illegal immigrants. They do actually provide a very necessary form of housing for those who have real difficulty actually getting any form of accommodation. So they do have a place in the housing mix. The local government reorganisation, this is one that just keeps rolling on, doesn't it? It's the biggest change to government in years, if it actually happens. So I just encourage everyone out there, if you've got any kind of view on any of the options that are available, have your say. This is your opportunity to decide what the government for the next generation is going to look like. In terms of the banking hub, it's disappointing to see yet another bank closing down in the town. We still have a few, but part of what we like is actually having a choice. So there are many people that would prefer to have an actual physical bank where they can go and discuss their problems. Sadly, the banks themselves don't seem to see it that way. The Hinckley Daycare Centre, I'll save the majority of my comments for the motion later on. I would just ask the Leader if he'll be attending the emergency summit, which will be hosted by Dr Luke Evans MP. I understand he's received an invite. The safeguarding of Burbage Common. This is very welcome news to see that the Common is having these enhancements done. especially after we fought off the rail freight proposals, and long may they stay buried. The Ada Lovelace statue, I know a number of the people that have put a huge amount of effort, time, and blood, sweat and tears, I think, into this project. So it's brilliant to see that it's actually been delivered, and just well done to everybody who's been involved in that. The land for the crematorium. As a Conservative group, we stand by the need to deliver a much-needed crematorium for the residents of Hinckley and Bosworth. And the latest proposal to sell the site represents probably the last chance of doing this. Support of the measures proposed to deliver a crematorium for Hinckley is not the same as, and should not be considered as support of the botched project management by the Liberal Democrat administration. Indeed, it has been an uphill struggle for the Conservative group to get any information on the status and progress of the project throughout, as evidenced by the multiple questions and deflective responses received. Events for 2026. Those are always really well attended, brilliant for our residents, and hopefully they'll be continue to be well supported and great fun for everyone in the borough. I see there's a big list. I've just bought Claire a new bike, so we'll probably be at the Mallory Mile. We might take a little while, but we'll try and be there. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Lambert, do you want to have a say?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Leader, for your statement. I do share the Leader's concerns about the potentially inflammatory statements that were made. We have a duty as elected members to know where the line is and not to cross it. Food waste rollout. Range of comments from local neighbours who have had their food waste caddies delivered. I think it'd be fair to say there is still an information gap that we need to work to fill. I'm doing my bit, and I'm sure officers will continue to do theirs. On the Article 4 direction, very pleased that scrutiny will have a role as part of examining the consultation responses there. And as Councillor Allen has said, well-managed and dispersed provision of these type of units can be an important part of meeting the housing needs of the borough. In terms of local government reorganisation, I look forward to seeing the outcome of the consultation on the 3 proposals, and I also look forward to the government's response. The Hinckley Day Centre we're going to be debating shortly, so I'll save my comments for that until later. I will take this opportunity regarding the crematorium to confirm all party support for the way forward that has been agreed. This will hopefully allow us to provide this much needed facility for the borough. In terms of the events, the usual comprehensive package of events, which I will endeavour to attend as many as I can, but I would stress, as I always do, the need for some rural issues, if at all possible, and some rural events for people to attend out in the wider borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. We will now take the speakers in turn. Can I respectfully ask you if you could... I haven't fallen out with the Deputy Mayor, but she's full of cold at the moment, so we've respectfully kind of separated ourselves. So could you please raise your hands if you wish to speak? Councillor Cartwright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So obviously I welcome the food waste rollout. It's always difficult when changes are made to waste and recycling services, and as the Deputy Leader said there'll be some difficulties as it beds in. But nevertheless, and again as he says, we'll have to see how this rolls out. The important thing though is any participation in this is better than sending it to landfill, so I'll fully welcome the actual rollout of the scheme. But also want to commend officers and members cross-party that have actually made this happen on time and on the day it's supposed to be delivered, because there's many authorities, I don't need to name any names, across the country that have not been successful in rolling it out on time. So they will be behind us, whereas we're in front of it. In terms of Councillor Lambert, from the publicity I've seen, I've not actually got the caddy yet, but from the publicity I've seen, I thought it was quite good, so I'd be interested to work with you to see what is missing there, because I was going to commend our public Communications Department specifically for how clear and concise the information was in respect of the food waste caddy rollout, but I've not actually had my caddy yet to actually see that in its full. But fully support that. There will be, of course, people that have been welcoming this for a very, very long time and will absolutely comply with it straight away. And I think the Deputy Leader has already done that. But there will be some that will be against it, of course, and some that sit on the fence. It doesn't matter, though, does it? Because it's important that we actually roll this out. We've got to do it, and it will have a benefit by not going to landfill. So we'll see how that pans out. But it's equally important to recognise that just because I can see in the rural areas particularly, streets will be watching out for who's putting it out and who's not. Just because you don't put your caddy out doesn't mean that you're not participating, because home composting, of course, is still an option to people. So let's not start that ball rolling about naming and shaming people that don't actually put it out, because there are alternatives. I hope it's successful, but as everybody said, we'll just have to wait and see. In terms of local government reorganisation, of course, the North City South has been my preferred option since the outset, other than us staying as we are, of course, and I urge everybody to take part in that consultation, because it has a fundamental effect on you, your family, your home, and everything you do potentially into the future. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cartwright. Councillor Bowles.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I want to start by highlighting the amazing event that was the Sports Awards. It was an incredible evening. We had future F1 drivers, we had future equestrian riders going to the Olympics, we had school football teams, we had rugby players. It really is an evening really celebrating the best of what Hinkley and Bosworth have to offer. Thank you, Councillor Lynch, who was also there supporting the event, so thank you for you as well for attending. The officers pull off a fabulous evening, and it's an incredible thing, and I'm very, very proud of it. Just on the one underneath, Article 4, I just want to remind the opposition leader that they are not illegal immigrants. They are asylum seekers in the Serco place, and there's an important definition there, because that only inflames tensions, as you well know. The next one is the Hinkley Day case, and we'll talk about that later, and I'm proud to be seconding that motion, because again, the MP has told untruths, I think the word is, so we'll talk about that later. The Ada Lovelace statue. Thank you for recognising the work the officers done. That wouldn't have happened without the officers' support, whether that be in planning or cultural services. They were instrumental in that statue being placed where it is. And again, it's something that draws people into Hinkley to spend money, to spend longer here. And that tourism strategy really is all about that. And again, I'll be at as many events as I can be this year. And I know there's going to be some real highlights. My favourite still is Snapdragon. It's something that brings every person who attends joy. So I'll be there at Snapdragon for sure with my children. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles. We have no other speakers by the looks of it, so Councillor Bray, do you wish to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for their contributions. There's two things I just want to pick up that's been said, really. Number one, Councillor Allen made the point about expanding the Article 4 area. This is certainly something I am very keen to do, and if you watch the executive meeting back, you will see that we've sought delegation to be able to do that and remain on our feet quickly how to respond to this. The problem we've got is that this thing requires government sign-off, and the government are very clear that it has to be evidence-based and it has to be proportionate. So the area that we are consulting on at the moment is one that we believe that we can evidence-base. If it seeks to become a problem elsewhere, we will also seek to expand that. I just want to make a final comment, and I think, look, I have no idea what the motivation behind the various statements of the MP is. I suspect it's something to do with opinion polls that have come out since the general election, some of which say that Councillor Mullane is going to beat him, some of which say Reform are going to beat him. So I think what he's trying to do is discredit the Lib Dems and out-reform Reform in the hope that it can keep him a path to victory and his seat in the House of Commons. But yeah, I think it's very sad that we've got there. And I think as we've said, you know, the untrue statement, and we've just heard another one tonight, botched project management by the Lib Dem and the Creditor. Let's be very, very clear. The reason why the crematorium wasn't delivered as a council project is because the ground conditions of the work. And who were the ones who did the ground conditions? That side. It was the ground condition surveys were done by the Tory administration. So you should be standing up, Richard Allen, as a person who was part of that administration and apologising for who's not been able to deliver that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. We will move on to item 9, the minutes of the Scrutiny Commission. Councillor Lambert, would you like to introduce your minutes?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Short introduction. We're undertaking a work plan review going back to 2023 workshop that we held to see how we've performed against the original plans that we had, and that will be reported back to a future meeting. The remainder of the agenda was regarding the budget, and the comments that arose from the meeting are incorporated into the budget reports before members tonight. So, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Now we move on to item 10, the pay policy statement. Councillor Bray, would you like to present your report?
Yes, Mr Mayor, and I thank Julie Stay for her work on this. The pay policy statement is a statutory report presented to Council each year under the Localism Act. Its main purpose is to monitor the pay difference between the highest paid earners and average to ensure the pay gap does not increase between those earners. It also sets out how the Council pays its employees, along with the other terms and conditions of employment, and highlights the salary of our chief officers and lowest paid employees. Section 3.4c of the report highlights the pay gap between the top and average earner. This has remained the same compared to last year. This is due to a fixed percentage national pay award given to staff last year, which was identical across all pay groups. Members should note that the salary levels set out in the pay policy are still subject to a cost of living pay award for April 2026 onwards, due to the delayed national negotiations with the unions. Section 3.10 of the report highlights the gender pay gap, which needs to be reported by employers with more than 250 staff. Whilst the pay policy data is looking forward, the pay gap data is historical. The pay gap is as at the 31st of the 3rd 25 is 4.4%, which is broadly comparable to the previous year at 4.3%. In terms of benchmarking, it is still significantly lower than the national average, which reports a pay gap of 11.2%. It is recommended that the Council approves the policy statement. I formally move.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Does anyone wish to second the motion?
Yeah, I'll second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles. We will now debate the report. Would any member wish to speak on the pay statement? If no, then we would... Councillor Bray, would you like to make any final statements? I don't think you would. No. So, those in favour of accepting the pay policy statement, then please raise your hands now. I think... Is that unanimous? I think it is, yes. Is anybody against, just in case I missed anybody? Don't think so, no. That is carried then. Right, just slight change in the agenda. We will now move on to item 12, the Community Governance Review.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Again, Councillor Bray, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I formally move the report. The Local Government and Public Involvement in Health Act 2007 requires principal authorities to undertake community governance reviews upon receipt of a valid petition. In November 2025, a petition from residents of Ratcliffe Cooley was received, which requested the Council Ratcliffe Cooley removed from Witherley Parish. The petition contained the required numbers of signatures to require a community governance review. 12 months allow for a review commenced upon the receipt of the valid petition. As Ratcliffe Cooley is within in an existing parish, which will be impacted by any changes to community governance, the governance review must include the entirety of Witherley Parish. The report, in terms of reference, set out in the timetable review, with the first stage of consultation commencing on the 23rd of February. Members will note that the petition text covers some matters that are not within the remit of the review, and the request includes a timescale that is not achievable due to timescales and extensive consultation required for the review to take place. However, due to the petition being valid, the review must now take place. The Council is recommended to approve the terms of reference to the review, delegate authority to the Deputy Chief Exec to amend the terms of reference if necessary. Since the petition was accepted, a further petition has been received from residents of Fenny Drayton, asking that Fenny Drayton be removed from Witherley Parish. The legislation requires the Principal Authority to decide how to deal with the petition, given a review which covers the same area has already been commenced. It is therefore recommended that the petition be accepted, considered and consulted upon as part of the Witherley Community Governance Review. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Would somebody like to
second, Mr Mayor, and reserve my right.
Thank you, Councillor Cartwright. Would any member like to speak on the item? It doesn't look like it. So, Councillor Bray, I don't think he would make any final statements. Councillor Cartwright?
No, sorry, Mr Mayor, just as all the other consultations, I urge people to get involved. It's launched in a number of days. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Well, just my final comment is to echo that, really. I would welcome hearing from as many people in that area as we can about how they want to see the future of their area. It is, as far as I'm concerned, it is up for local people to decide. The only thing I would say on that, of course, is that we shouldn't be, as I understand the legislation says, creating councils that will not potentially be viable going forward. So, and also we need to consider what happens to the entirety of that parish area. So, with those two important caveats, I formally move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. The motion to approve this report then has been moved by Councillor Bray and seconded by Councillor Cartwright. Could all those in favour please raise their hands now and keep them raised while they are counted? That is unanimous again. So the motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Bray. We will now move back onto the agenda as published, and we move on to item 11, budget reports. Items A to G will be presented and discussed together, but voted on separately. In accordance with legislation, we will need to hold a recorded vote on reports A, B and C, and it has been agreed by the group leaders that this will be taken as a single vote. Councillor Lynch, would you like to present your report?
Right, thank you, Mr Mayor and members of the Council. I present the 2006-2007 budget proposals for Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council and the MTFS for the years 2026 to 2028, together with reports, agenda items 11A to G inclusive, including the supplementary reports 11A and 11C. Bringing these proposals together this year has been particularly challenging through the delays in the issues of the government settlement, the final adjustment, which of course was downward, necessitating the issue of supplementary documents and lack of clarity over government funding of additional pressures such as the food waste collection. Considering the MTS first, this is likely to be the last MTFS for Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council before the proposed new Unity Authority takes over our services. And it has been prepared at a time of significant change and uncertainty. Key pressures which have to be accommodated include the cost of the new food waste collection, pay costs, which also include additional staff for the new food waste collection requirement, and the cost of temporary accommodation, which has been going out of control almost for some time. And in some cases, these have not been fully funded in our settlement, despite the fact that we were given fairly good assurances that they would be fully funded. The three-year provisional settlement was issued in late December, but the final settlement was not until the 9th of February, when it removed £2.3 million of promised funding from the original proposals, the reductions falling on years 27-28, 28-29, so they don't affect the current budget of 26-27. The three-year settlement also includes a fair funding review of business rates for 26-27, which has the effect of removing all of our £4.6 million of bonus rate growth retention,
and makes the business rate pool economically unviable. That pool is now closed. Cost reductions, new income and savings included in these proposals amounted to £2.3 million. But additional cost pressures, the principal ones are the ones I've just referred to, give a net increase in costs of £2.9 million. The key messages from the MTFS are: the Council is spending more than it receives in rate support grant, council tax, fees and charges by some £3 million a year. The deficit position is being closed by the use of reserves and general fund balances at the rate of £2.5 million for 26-27 and £3.8 million for 27-28, which will achieve a general fund balance of 15% in 26-27, falling to 10% in 27-28. Of the earmarked reserves, £5.8 million, with which we began 26-27, will be all gone, with the exception of £450,000 by the end of 27-28. Excuse me, I beg your pardon. All gone, so I beg your pardon. Where was I? Right. Sorry, Councillor Spaniel there. So the 450,000 remaining of that, 250,000 is the LGR reserve, which is required, and the other one is special expenses. Whilst we are advised by the Ministry that their proposals for local government reform will continue on programme, if it's delayed even by only 1 year, then to achieve general fund balance of 10% would require savings or additional income of £4.6 million. And though I've tried to refrain in this document as far as possible from giving you a succession of table numbers or pages to follow, I think in this respect I would like to draw your attention to the table to clause 3.6 of the MTFS, which more or less says it all. The general fund budget then for 26-27, the key message from 26-27 budgets are given in my earlier comments on the MTFS. A balanced budget is achieved by use of earmarked reserves of 2.5 million to support the general fund. The principal cost pressures that I've already mentioned are costed out as food waste collection 1.45 million, loss of business rate pool 1 million, rising costs of additional staff for food waste, rising costs of pay and additional staff for the food waste collection 1.2 million, temporary accommodation £500,000. The rise of expenditure over income and the need to use our reserves to achieve balanced budget is a direct result of successive reductions in the value of central government funding over many years. Local authority spending power is some 9% in real terms lower than it was in 2011 and much lower in some of their areas. In 2011, HBBC net service expenditure was budgeted at 13.05 million. By 27-28, it's expected to be 18.9 million, an increase of 45%, in fact a bit more than 45% for that length of time. However, the proposed budget is balanced for 26-27 and the immediate financial situation is secure. With regard to the council tax, details of the proposed council tax are set out in document 11C supplement, with the borough council tax set to increase for the 26-27 year by £5 or some 2.6%. With regard to the housing revenue account budget, The HRA budget is targeted at securing long-term delivery and viability of the HRA business plan to allow both existing and future tenants to be supported. Challenges include compliance with the Decent Homes Standard, social housing regulations, decarbonisation, etc., and of course the need to increase the availability of council housing through new build and acquisition. The report proposes an increase in rentals of 4.8%, an allowable level under current government regulations and in accordance with members' previous agreement under the approved HRA strategy. There are considerable pressures on the HRA, particularly in repair costs, as detailed in the table to 316 on page 108 of the main report, which fortunately also do show some savings. The balance is, however, completely satisfactory, and the HRA continues to be well managed with no real concerns based on the reported budget. Officers throughout the Council, not just the HRA, continue to look for efficiency savings within the cost of supplies and services, with a rate of 0% increase in the cost of non-contracted expenditure and 2.5% maximum for contracted services unless there are specific contract terms or other specific requirements. Fees and charges for 26-27, the estimated income from these for 26-27 is £8.8 million, which is an increase of £600,000 over the amount collected in the previous year. That's useful, but not anything like enough to avoid the substantial use of reserves which we're obliged to make. The garden waste collection is increased by a further £5, but the cost is still at the lower end of fees charged elsewhere, and it still doesn't cover the cost of the service. The capital programme, the report seeks the approval of the capital programme for the years 26-27 to 28-29, the last year being included only because it's a requirement of best practice to cover this length of time. The full extent of the capital programme is given on the table to 311 on page 160. Of the £24 million general fund capital programme, 10 million is the previously agreed acquisition and development scheme. And of this, 5 million is being used to purchase general fund properties to address making savings on temporary accommodation costs of something like £600,000 per year. For the HRA, the capital programme is some £58.4 million, of which £38.6 million, or 71%, goes on maintaining and improving our existing stock. This programme gives this programme is given in detail on page 179 of the main document. The Prudential Code for capital financing of local authorities, etc., for the years 23-24 to 26-27. The report covers 4 key areas that members need to approve to ensure good financial management. The Council's minimum revenue position policy statement, the Treasury management statement, the investment strategy and the prudential indicators. The principal message is that to fund our capital programme, borrowing is increasing from 79.3 million at the beginning of 2025-26 to 111.7 million by the end of 27-28, based on current forecasts. Loans, of course, are of different lengths and interest rates, but for example, a mid-February loan over 25 years from the Public Works Loan Board would require repayments of interest of £60,000 a year, so £60,000 per million, which is a lot of money. The principal message is that to fund our capital programme, borrowing it, I've read that on and now I'm afraid I've got to refer to more tables because we do have to approve this section. The table to 3.5 on page 184 gives the capital spending plans and how they are funded, giving the net funding requirement. 3.7 on page 185 gives the capital financing requirement, the Council's underlying need to borrow for capital purposes. The table on 314 gives the amount expected to be borrowed and the amounts under borrowed. Under borrowing means it will be needed at some time, but not just at the moment. And of course, cash flow management is used, using the resources we keep all the time, is used to delay the need for borrowing for as long as possible, but can't delay it forever if we intend to maintain our capital programmes. The rest, I think, in that particular section of the report is fairly clear. A lot of it's academic, but again, it's necessary for us to approve it tonight. I think, Mr. Mayor, I've made my feelings about the parsimonious attitude of successive governments in the dealing with local government perfectly clear. And remember, there are a lot of councils in worse straits than we are. If we had any hopes of a more financial realistic settlement from this government and its predecessors, and then so far we are disappointed, but perhaps not too surprised. Be that as it may, we are still able to provide balanced budgets for the remaining 2 years of this council and maintain the exceptional level of services to our residents that they have been used to. And finally, may I express my thanks to Ashley and the members of my finance team who more than ever this year have worked as diligently and professionally to produce these proposals and balanced budgets in spite of central government cuts and the very last-minute delays to the settlement. Mr. Mayor, I formally propose acceptance of the various recommendations contained in items 11A to 11G with supplementary items 11A and 11C. And we'll take any questions from councillors, which of course means that in fairness, Ashley will take any questions from councillors. I beg your pardon, could I ask councillors to speak up a bit? I'm sorry, I've got a slight ear problem and I'm finding it difficult to hear.
Second the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Would the spokesperson for the opposition like to speak? I understand, Councillor Surtees, that is you.
Can I just say thank you to Keith for presenting the budget. He's done it in a very detailed way. And can I also thank COST of using our earmarked reserves, which means that the new unitary authority will have to have an enormous mountain to climb to be financially stable. And as Keith said, if we have an additional year, we've got a 4.6 million deficit, and just to break even, we would need to find another 3 million. We note that, like everyone else, this council has experienced exceptional cost drivers, and Keith has gone into some of these in great detail. We've got the food waste, we've got the homelessness, we've got the increased costs in wages, and we've also got the business rates reallocation, etc., that it's caused us a problem. And I would just say to everybody, if you turn to page 10 in the appendix, reserves and balances, I think that details the problem that we have ongoing, which shows our reserves depleting, which again Keith has actually detailed for us. Going forward, I think 2029 or 2020, going forward into the new unitary authority, I think without increased funding, they are going to have a major problem to address. And thank you for your report.
Thank you, Councillor Surtees. We will now debate the budget report. Councillor Richard Allen.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to start by thanking Ash and his team and Keith for their presentation, which was very clear and detailed. I'd just like to ask 3 points of personal clarification, if I can, please. So firstly, am I correct in saying that as of March 2028, this council will have virtually no reserves, if I understand that correctly from the report? 2, what is the contingency plan to fund the council's activities should the local government reform either be delayed past May 2028 or, given the chaos with the fast track councils at the moment, if it's cancelled or doesn't happen altogether? And the third one, I think I'm right in saying the last couple of years we've mentioned that we need a plan for savings and additional revenue. How's that plan coming along, and when will members see and be able to discuss the full detail of that, please? Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Cartwright.
Mr Mayor, well, I welcome the report. Thank you, Keith and Ashley, for putting it together. But can I just remind members, while we're discussing this, well, you finished beautifully, Keith, where you mentioned about frontline services and a balanced budget. We've faced financial challenges year on year for the settlement, and I'm not going to go into that, but what I do want to mention is we only need to go back a couple of meetings, and the great speech that our leader of the Hinkley and Bosworth made, where he highlighted everything that's delivered that's non-statutory. And it was as long as both my arms, both my legs, and we'd be out that door. So not only do we deliver a balanced budget, we pay our staff fairly, rightly so. We deliver frontline services that are exceptional, not my words, peer review. And then we go and deliver a phenomenal amount of stuff that's non-statutory. So whilst we are in a difficult position at times, let's not forget that that difficult position delivers real differences to each and every resident of this borough, whether they be living, working, part of the council, or living in any part of the borough. Those additional services that are massive create real value, real outcomes, and is way over and above what we would have to statutorily deliver. So let's not forget that when we're talking about finances and delivering on a tight budget. We make that budget go as far as possible, so I can commend the report, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cartwright. Councillor Bray.
I just want to thank officers for their comments, Mr Mayor, and thank the lead member for presenting it.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Councillor Webber-Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I want to echo the thanks to all the officers for the work that they've done on the budget, and to Keith for once again inspiring us with his rundown of a very lengthy document. Not wanting to make a hugely political point, but our role is about how we ensure placemaking. And to build on what Councillor Cartwright said, a lot goes into making Hinkley and Bosworth a very special place, and that all has to be funded and come from somewhere, and you can only spend £1 once, and therefore you have to spend it as well as you can do and as best as you can do for all the residents to make sure that people can grow up, live, work and prosper. And I just want to say I think it's really, over the years that I've been a councillor, it's really disappointing to see that elected officials, elected members, ministers in Westminster pay so little regard to what needs to happen in local places, that we get poor settlements, we get them coming through really last minute, and it means that the decisions and choices that have to be made by local administrations, carried out by local officers, is increasingly challenging. So I just want to commend this budget, commend the fact that it balances the cost of living that people are suffering from at the minute with fantastic services and the great work of the council. And, you know, I'm absolutely fearful about what will happen when unitary authorities come to that sense of placemaking, that sense of belonging, and the fact that all of this good work could be for naught. And we just need to remember the power of the work that's going on now and over the next few years as this authority continues to exist. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Webber-Jones. Councillor Lynch, don't think there's anybody else wish to speak, so would you like to have any final comments?
First of all, I lose my place, and then I forget the microphone. God, it's age, you know. Thank you, Miriam. Really appreciate it. And you too, Richard. I can't remember whether it was you that asked it, Richard, but let's just repeat this one. If the unitary authority doesn't happen, and we go into another year, we go into that other year needing to save £4.6 million. Now, unless somebody can persuade Mrs. Reeves or whoever it is at the down in Westminster to give us that £4.6 million, I don't somehow think Ashley's going to agree to me trying to borrow it from somewhere. I'm afraid my bank account doesn't run to that amount, not quite. So we will have to make very drastic savings. We will have to make efforts to increase our income. We will have to consider all sorts of options that may not be particularly palatable. For the moment, we have balanced the budget and we don't have to make them. And let's not get too down about this. And I think I sense a coming together on the problem we've got here, and I greatly appreciate that. Let's not get too down about it, because Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council provides services way above so many other councils. And it's so well done. And, well, our peer review. And our peer review was a compliment to all of us, not just to the Liberal Democrats. It was a compliment to the whole council. It says we got it right. So let's rejoice in that and worry about the £4.6 million. Now, again, being sensible about it and being fair, if during this year we find that there is a slippage or potential slippage in this new authority, then I'm afraid you and I are going to have to be looking at some figures very carefully and coming up with perhaps some decisions we don't want to make. But that's life. That's what we're all here for. We're all 34 of us. So we just have to live with it. Could I add my thanks to Martin for the comments. I agree with you entirely about the additional mile we go to provide the services to the people that we represent. Thanks also to Councillor Bray, of course, who was surprisingly quiet, and to Councillor Webber-Jones, who didn't ask the 14 questions he threatened to ask me earlier on.
It was 27.
I think what it was. So that, Mr. Mayor, as far as I'm concerned, is as far as I go. This is the 21st time I've presented the budget to Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council, and I think next year, the 22nd, looks like it'll be the last. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Don't clap him, you want money. And he only took 16 minutes as well, so well done, Keith. Right, it's been moved by Councillor Lynch and seconded by Councillor Bray that reports 11A to 11G be approved. We will now take a recorded vote on items 11A, B and C. I will ask Becky to read out the names. Please respond with either you are for or against or abstaining. Over to you, Ben.
Thank you. So Councillor Claire Allen.
Against.
Councillor Richard Allen. Councillor Balls. Councillor Bray. Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Councillor Cook. Councillor Joyce Crooks. Councillor Bill Crooks. Councillor Fleming. Councillor Gibbons. Cathy Gibbons.
For.
Councillor Scott Gibbons. Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Hodgkins. Councillor Lambert.
Abstain.
Councillor Lynch. Councillor Moore.
For.
Councillor Linda Mullaney. Councillor Michael Mullaney. Councillor O'Shea.
Abstain.
Councillor Pendlebury. Councillor Simmons. Councillor Smith. Councillor Surtees. Councillor Sutton. Councillor Webber-Jones. Councillor Waitman. Councillor Williams.
For.
Those against? Those abstaining? The motion is carried. Item 11F, Capital Programme. Would all those in favour please raise your hands now? Okay. Those against? Please raise your hands. Those abstaining? The motion is carried. Item 11G, Treasury Management and Prudential Indicators. Could all those in favour please raise your hands now? Those against? Those abstaining? The motion is carried. Those abstaining? The motion is carried. Right, we will now move on to item 13, motions in accordance with Council Procedural Rule 17. Motion A has been submitted by Councillor Michael Mullaney and is included in the agenda. Councillor Mullaney, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor. Yeah. too many speeches yesterday at County Hall. The government are proposing to reduce the number of police forces from 43 across the country to 15 or even just 12 forces. This will result in the creation of huge mega police forces. It will inevitably mean the abolition of Leicestershire Police, with it being merged with a number of other forces. What will replace it is likely to be a far bigger force containing potentially Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire and possibly even more areas. Now, there are real concerns that areas like ours, which are likely to be geographically on the edge of such a force and are also largely rural and small town community in Hinckley and Bosworth, is likely to lose out under such new arrangements. There are concerns that such huge mega forces will inevitably mean police cover dragged away from more rural communities like ours towards bigger city centre areas. We already face challenges in terms of policing in Leicestershire. We were the 7th worst funded police force in England. I believe after the latest settlement we are now the 6th worst funded police force in the country. And people do regularly raise concerns about the lack of policing, and partly that is due to the fact that we are unfairly put near the bottom of the league for funding for policing. And that just unfortunately reflects what tends to happen to us in a whole range of services, whether that's transport, education, health service, roads, and many other areas. Our community gets put to the back of the queue by successive governments in terms of funding for public services. So we need more investment in our police service, not less. In rural areas, when I speak to people, there is real concerns about crime. And I remain concerned that such areas are likely to be squeezed out further of police cover if a huge mega police force is created. The government seems to be driven by a belief that a bigger police force is better, but as we've seen with the problems with the Metropolitan Police Force, it is not always the case that just having a police force covering a large area means that you get a more efficient police force. It can mean often the opposite. And in Scotland, when they merged all the police forces in 2013, all 8 into one, they found that it did have a serious effect on morale of officers and staff, and there were still problems aligning the various systems from the former police forces in Scotland over 10 years later. Now, if police forces want to share services in order to reduce costs and cooperate more across county borders, then obviously we would welcome that. And even if some forces do want to voluntarily merge and reach an agreement, again, I don't think that's necessarily something we have to oppose, but I think what we should oppose is an attempt to compulsorily force all police forces to merge. I think that would be a backward step, and I think the plans to abolish Leicestershire Police and other police forces is likely to create huge mega police forces that wouldn't benefit our area and could see our area further reduced in police cover. I hope the Council can support this message tonight, this motion tonight, and send a message to the Government that we don't support the creation of these huge, distant new police forces, to rethink the plans. We don't want to see the abolition of Leicestershire Police. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mullaney. Councillor Cartwright, are you seconding the motion?
Seconding the motion, Mr Mayor. I'd like to speak to the motion now rather than reserve my right. Thank you. So all communities across Hinckley and Bosworth constantly ask for more visible policing. I see this on a daily basis through my executive role, which, if combined with technology, would actually give a better result. We can think back and look back to when it was more visible policing through beat bobbies, and certainly in my time on this council, we had some excellent beat bobbies in Groby that not only were closer to the community, but actually had that community knowledge of where the issues were. This motion sets out very clearly what we aim to achieve, and would be difficult to vote against, because quite simply, increase funding for local communities. Well, all our communities are asking for that on a regular basis, and would give them more reassurance and a better public perception of the police with, I believe, using technology and increased deterrent as well as more successful results, and enhanced rural crime support, local police decks in community hubs. Well, they're so remote, a larger, bigger force. We've taken away beat bobbies in the main. I know they try and do what they did before, but that presence in the communities that was before will be taken out from the community, taken out from the hub, and delivered on a much larger scale, which means that evidence base and that intel will be lost. So I fully support this motion, Mr Mayor, and believe that it sets out what it aims to achieve, which will give us increased funding for community policing teams, whilst enhancing rural crime support for those that are most vulnerable in our borough. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
We have motion A has been moved by Councillor Mullaney and seconded by Councillor Cartwright, but we have had notice of an amendment to motion A. Councillor Harris, you have given notice of an amendment to the motion. Would you like to propose your amendment now? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Let me be clear from the outset. I strongly support visible, accountable, community-based policing. I support neighbourhood officers and I support rural crime teams. I support local accountability. Nothing in my amendment weakens that commitment. But what I cannot support is this council rushing to oppose something that at this stage is still an idea that's being explored nationally. We are councillors, we are not police officers, we're not operational commanders, and we're not the Home Office. Our role is to represent residents responsibly and based on decisions on evidence and facts. If proposals are being discussed about police force mergers, surely the sensible first step is to ask, what is the evidence, what's the financial case, what is the operational impact, and how would local accountability be protected? My amendment simply says, let us seek clarity before we condemn it. It asks for assurances that neighbourhood visibility, rural response capacity and local accountability will not be weakened. Those are exactly the concerns residents raise with us, and rightly so. If reform strengthens frontline policing, improves technology and delivers better outcomes for residents, should we not at least examine it properly? And if, after reviewing the evidence, it proves harmful to local policing, then we would be in a far stronger position to oppose it, armed with facts rather than assumptions. Opposing an idea before we have seen the detail does not strengthen our argument, it weakens it. This amendment does not endorse mergers. It does not give a government a blank cheque, and it simply says, show us the case, protect our communities, demonstrate that local policing will not suffer. It's balanced and a responsible position. We owe our residents careful judgment, not knee-jerking reactions. For those reasons, I ask colleagues across the chamber to support the amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. I understand, Councillor O'Shea, you are seconding the amendment.
Yes, I'm seconding the amendment. Obviously, you know, I've got a personal interest here because as a retired police officer, and I'd like to see, obviously, local policing kept, and that is a priority for me. But at the present time, we don't know what this government is doing. They're knee-jerking, they're doing U-turns daily. So we need more clarity before we start attacking. We want the clarity to see what they want to do. I, for one, want to see our local police force remain in the same position. And I won't change that view because I know what local policing is about. But we need some clarity from the government first to see where they're going. They've been U-turning all the while. They've got no clarity at the present time, and I will second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Shea. Councillor Mullaney and Councillor Cartwright, do you accept the amendment to your motion? No. No. Okay. Then we will debate the merits of the amendment before voting on whether or to accept or not to adopt the substantive motion. Members, you may debate the amendment. Stuart.
Yeah, just to say, Mr Mayor, that I thank Councillor Harris and Councillor Shea for bringing forward the amendment. We won't be accepting it. We think this is a statement of principle. We believe that centralising the police is going to mean rural communities like parts of Hinckley and Boswell see less police officers than they do now, which I think some people will find incredible, but it will. So therefore, we won't be accepting the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Councillor Cook.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not talking about the amendment, though. Mr Mayor, I'm not going to talk about the amendment. So is this the wrong time for me to speak?
Yeah, who else wants to speak on the amendment?
So not me.
We'll take... Sorry. Yes, I know. Yeah, just get... Councillor Richard Allens first, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Just very much in brief, I'd say I fully support the amendment. If we want to counter it, let's do it with some facts and some actual substantive reasons why, as opposed to just knee-jerk. So support the amendment. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Pendlebury.
I'm not wanting to talk on the amendment. I'm wanting to talk on the main motion, if that's all right. I'm not wanting to talk on the amendment. I'm wanting to talk on the main motion, if that's all right.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am baffled a little bit by the amendment, I have to say. We can request the facts and everything else, but it will be spun in the way that the government wishes to spin it. And so many times the strategic cases for things are not presented in balanced and democratic ways, but balanced in ways entirely that the government of the day wishes to go. And forgive me, Councillor O'Shea, if I misheard you, but I think I heard you say, as the seconder to the amendment, that you didn't want to see the abolition of the Leicestershire police force and therefore the protection of rural policing. So there's no way that we can back this amendment because we need to make a stand. We've seen it with unitary authorities. We've seen it time and time again. We need to urgently stand up, I think, for our residents. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Webber-Jones. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. I'm surprised members of the Conservative group have got so much faith in this government to bring forward meaningful proposals on this. I'm afraid I don't. I wouldn't, I wouldn't trust them to run a whelk store, frankly. I mean, look at the mess they've made of LGR. I mean, goodness gracious. Look, I mean, I do have some sympathy about evidence-based policy, but there is already evidence that large forces just don't work. I mean, there's so much academic literature, apart from anything else, on the absolute disaster that was Police Scotland and the way that was managed. I frankly can't see this being any better. Similarly, the Metropolitan Police is probably generally regarded as one of the worst forces in the country for sort of public satisfaction. So, we can hardly say that large forces necessarily make for better police. I do normally defer to, the expertise of former police officers, but I also agree with Councillor O'Shea about the importance of keeping Leicestershire Police. I spoke to some former officers when I was standing for the Police Commissioner election, who thought it had all gone wrong in about 1967 when the city and the county police were merged, because what invariably happened was that when there was an incident in Leicester, all the local police from Hinckley got sent to Leicester to deal with it. And I think it's only going to get worse with more centralisation. I can't see if they follow a Police Scotland model or a Metropolitan Police model, you can possibly get any better. So, I would normally take a view that we should listen carefully to the arguments that are being put forward by this government, but frankly, I have so little faith in this government, and I think local police is so important that I'll support the original motion unamended.
Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, I hope it doesn't disappoint my Conservative colleagues too much, but I say I will be supporting the amendment. Simply objecting to the proposals closes down the debate and doesn't allow us to consider if there may be something in these proposals that are actually of benefit. There will always be a downside to change, we all know that, but I don't think it's right that we should close down our minds to actually considering what that change may bring us and then make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor O'Shea and Councillor Cartwright, you've already spoken on there. Oh, sorry. Councillor Lynch, go on.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can't remember that. It almost goes against the grain to agree with my Liberal Democrat colleague there if you had the nerve to abstain on my proposal for for fees and charges, but still. Now, this does need addressing, and I understand the reason for Claire's amendment, but looking at the 3 paragraphs, seeking clarity from the Home Office on an evidence base. They won't have an evidence base. They simply have a desire to save money. Looking for, taking Richard's comment, looking for the facts. Come on, Richard, when did you ever get a fact from a proposal like this from any government of any colour? You just don't do it. There won't be facts. There will be opinions based on the proposals for 27 or 28 people, all of whom are an axe to grind. We will end up by doing the wrong thing yet again, just as we're about to do it on this new change of government, and just as we did it on the Metropolitans a few years ago. In my years, I've seen it all. The second paragraph, request assurances. Well, of course you'll get assurances. Naturally, they'll assure you that what they're doing is right. If you happen to believe it, well, it would be a bit naive, wouldn't it? There won't be any relevance in any assurances they can give. Support measures to improve efficiency, technology and collaboration. Well, fine, because you can do that in the current system without the need for reducing 47 to 12. How can anybody assume that 12 forces in a country this size can be as close to local people as 47? Now, I heard Ozzy seconded. In fairness to Ozzy, I don't believe that he really believed a word he was saying. I think, with the greatest of respect, I'm terribly sorry, Claire, but I can't support this.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Going back, Councillor O'Shea and Councillor Cartwright, you have already spoken on the amended motion. So, Councillor Mullaney, you have a right to reply on the amendment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to everyone who has spoken so far, and to Councillor Harris and O'Shea for their motion, for their amendment to the motion. I think that it is fair for us to be able to take a view on this issue. I do remember that 20 years ago, this issue was raised by the then Tony Blair government that sought to bring about police mergers, and that they dropped it at the time because they, after debate and argument, it was found to be the wrong idea. In fact, I remember at the time the Lib Dem Home Affairs spokesman who opposed it was one Nick Clegg. Now, I haven't always agreed with Nick over the years since then, but on that at least, on police mergers, I agreed with him 20 years ago and still agree with him now. I had a conversation with the Minister for Devolution where I did raise my concerns over this issue and sort of pointed out the fact that whilst I think devolution's a good idea, part of the problem is that a lot of what comes out of the government is actually centralisation, whether it's the police mergers or the local government reform and other areas where actually decision-making is not being taken at a lower level but is being more centralised. I certainly think that where there is opportunities for cooperation between forces, and even if there is a case somewhere for voluntary mergers between police forces, if there's agreement locally, then I wouldn't stand against it. But I think that a policy of forced police mergers is wrong. And I know that Councillor Harris and I think Councillor Richard Allen as well said that we shouldn't be preempting and making a decision straight away. I would point out that within minutes of the Home Secretary announcing this at the end of January, the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, Conservative Shadow Home Secretary, opposed the plans for police merger. The leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, has spoken against police mergers, and Katie Lamb, the junior Shadow Home Office Conservative spokesman, has written an article in Conservative Home saying that police mergers was the worst thing that had come out of the Home Office lately. So I think already most of the Conservatives at national level have reached, I think, the same view that we've reached here, which is that police mergers is not a good idea. And whilst obviously we're open to those areas that may want to voluntarily reach such an agreement, I think that a forced national policy of forcing all police forces and reducing them to merge and reducing them to 43 to 15 or 12 is a wrong idea. It's bad for Leicestershire. It's likely to mean less cover, particularly for police cover for our rural areas, and therefore I would ask that we don't support the amendment but keep the main motion as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mullaney. Can I remind members that we will now take a vote on the amendment? Okay, remember it is the amendment to determine whether it becomes the substantive motion. Therefore, could all those in favour of Councillor Harris's amendment becoming the substantive motion please raise your hands now? 9. Those against, please raise your hands now. The motion is lost. If the isn't carried, then we will the amendment we will now debate the original motion. Members may do it. So, Councillor Cook, you wanted to vote on the original motion, so please do so now.
Speak on it, not vote on it yet.
Not voting, not voting now.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to thank Councillor Mullaney, and I will be supporting your motion. At this stage, you were only saying that we're going to oppose any proposals and we're going to express our opposition. And I see a parallel here with what, if this comes about, will happen. What is happening to this council? What is happening to Harborough Council, Charnwood Council? We are being forced to become one big council. And I think most of us in this room know, not just think, know what a bad decision that will be. And so I am totally against this merging of police forces. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Pendlebury.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, thank you to Michael and, well, thank you to bringing the motion and to those who brought the amendment. This plan worries me. Nationally, we are rushing to make things bigger. Bigger unitary councils and bigger police forces. What we need is not bigger, but more local. Where will the officers be based? Undoubtedly, this will be the areas where the greatest number of crimes are. Not our communities, not our towns, not our villages. We need to urgently stop this forced conglomeration and bring back local, personal. It's people that matter, not technology.
Does anybody else wish to speak on the item at the moment? If not, Councillor Mullaney, do you like to make any final or closing comments?
Just to say thank you to everyone for their contributions in the debate and the discussion, and hope that we can support the motion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mullaney. The motion has been moved by Councillor Mullaney and seconded by Councillor Cartwright. Would all those in favour of accepting the original motion A, please raise your hands now and keep them raised while they're counted. Those against? 2 against. Those abstaining? 3. The motion is therefore carried. Thank you for your comments, ladies and gentlemen. We now move on to item 14, urgent motion that was I've agreed to accept and is being presented by Councillor Bray.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to present the motion in my name on the additional additional order paper. In doing so, I would remind Council that it was me that proposed that the daycare centre be approved when it went through Planning Committee in July. but more said about that later. To say that this news is sad news that we've heard today, that they are proposed not to go ahead, is an understatement. I am sad, disappointed and angry in equal measure. Successive governments have let us down. Successive MPs have let us down. There's a lot been said about this decision, but I would urge people to just read for themselves what the report from the NHS said. In a nutshell, the money is not there, and even if it was there, they wouldn't spend it here anyway, because the demand is not there. How on earth, with all the house building that we are getting in this area, they can say the demand is not there is just beyond me. Now, there's a lot being said in the press by the Member of Parliament, and I believe wholeheartedly that he is gaslighting people. He is being dishonest, and he knows he's being dishonest. And the reason for this, I think, is quite simply because he's trying to save face because his key election pledge is in tatters. He's claiming that this decision is to do with this council and to do with me. Well, let me set out in detail the timescale. On the 16th of June last year, I met with the NHS, following representations from Victorian Society and a number of other people asking about whether any of the Victorian heritage features could be retained. I met with them and I asked the question, simply that. And they said, well, we can't at the moment on the current timescale. If we don't get consent by the end of July, then the project would fail. So the day after, on the 17th of July, I wrote to the Secretary of State asking the question that people had asked me. Is it possible to have more time for that talks to continue? Never got a response from the Secretary of State. So therefore, faced with no response, it came to this Council Planning Committee on the 15th of July, and we were given a choice. We press ahead or we don't. And we pressed ahead. To be clear, we hit the NHS timetable with weeks to spare. And on the 19th of July, the Member of Parliament jumped up to the press and on the BBC said he looked forward to seeing this exciting new investment take shape, blah, blah, and now it has got the green light. He himself acknowledged on the 19th of July that this project, by this council, was given consent. So now, what he's saying is total and utter rubbish. He is taking people for fools, and this, as I said before, is more about the fact that the polls are showing him coming third than anything to do with the NHS. As I've outlined, the Council issued consent on time as part of the NHS timescale, and he acknowledged the fact at the time. Is he seriously suggesting that asking for a few Victorian heritage features on a building to be kept would undo years of NHS planning, years of budget processes? Of course not. It's nonsense, and he knows it's nonsense. If we do believe for one moment that I have that level of influence, what does it say about his level of influence? He purports to be this very important shadow junior minister, but clearly he's got no influence at all. People will rightly ask, what is the point of electing him? It is time he apologised to me and this council for misleading comments. And if he won't, then we will need to ask the House authorities to launch an inquiry. I will remind this council that misleading the Commons was what brought down Boris Johnson, who, of course, he supported to the bitter end. I do hope that we can draw a line under this mudslinging politics, and we can work together going forward to rescue this situation. I have asked our officers to seek meetings with NHS bosses and ministers, and I will ensure that if we get them, that our MP is invited. I hear today from Councillor Allen that he's invited me to an MP or to a meeting I've seen on my email that I've had, and of course will be more than delighted to attend, as will officers. This is far, far too important to let party politics take a fight, and I'm really, really sad that he, on hearing this news, decided that attack was going to be the best form of defence. And instead of reaching out and trying to get cross-party consensus to undo what is effectively the NHS, it's the NHS's decision, it's nobody else's decision, that why this is not going ahead. And I think it's very sad that the debate has taken this tone. But on that note, I move the motion in my name, and thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. Do you have a seconder?
I will second the motion, Mr Mayor, and reserve my remarks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowles. We will now debate the... Councillor Allen.
Oh, sorry, stiff knees. I think I need a day case unit. So, like everyone here, I'm deeply disappointed by the decision that's been announced today. Like many others, I've read the papers presented to the ICB, and they make it clear that the business case for the day case unit no longer works, a situation which is familiar to this council with the crematorium project. Occasionally, those decisions need to be taken. One of the significant reasons stated was an increase in the projected costs due to delays in the project after the expenditure was approved in 2024. One of the factors given for the delays is, and I quote, "Delays can be attributed to the planning application phasing when considering the contention surrounding the demolition of the Hinckley District Hospital. The delay in submitting the planning application to allow the development of a robust decision to address the local planning authority's concerns about the demolition." Their words, not mine. They clearly state that part of the responsibility sits with this council under this administration. In light of what has happened, and with hindsight, does the leader regret his last-minute letter to the Secretary of State requesting a further delay? This letter was clearly being construed as demonstrating that the day case unit project did not have universal support locally, in the context of severe budget pressures on the NHS and many other areas requesting funding and additional services for their residents. I also notice it has been suggested that this council may fund the £2 million shortfall in the day case unit. Bear in mind what we've seen in the reports earlier tonight. Where would that money come from? And would the council also underwrite further budget shortfalls year on year if the project did proceed? And I'll just finish by saying the MP's a big boy and quite capable of fighting his own battles. Doesn't need me to do it for him. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Scott Gibbons.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've been following this with interest, as most residents of Hinckley have. It seems to be that it's not just a case of money not being there. The money was there, then it suddenly got up in price, it's not there, it doesn't seem to be anything to do with planning. But the Chief Strategy Officer at the NHS, LLI, ICB said today, even if money was there, they wouldn't have the activity to make this decision. They wouldn't carry us forward. So even if all the cash was there, this wouldn't happen. It's nothing to do with planning delays. It's nothing to do with the cost. It's to do with the fact that they don't believe this building is needed. Now, whether we agree with that or not, so obviously open for debate. You know, we were all looking forward to not having to travel to Leicester, to have operations locally. That's been taken away from us. But it's not down to planning. It's not down to anything else. It's down to the fact the NHS has made a decision that they want this to be elsewhere and there's no demand. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbons. Councillor Harris.
Oh, sorry, Mr Mayor. Yeah, could you just clarify, point 5, you've mentioned misleading statements. Could you present those to council? Because I'm unsure about what the statements are. I've not seen any. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
If you remember, there's a line in the good book that says, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour." I think that's worth remembering when we're councillors. We should try to place the truth forefront. And sadly, I'm never quite sure what the truth is about the NHS here. I was always a bit sceptical about whether the money was ever really there, frankly. I was always a bit sceptical about the way they were trying to pressurise us to put the Planning Commission through very quickly without the usual scrutiny. But we did. I lost that particular argument. It went through the Planning Committee. It met their particular deadlines. It met their requirements. There was no objections raised that would have stopped the project. None at all. Let's be clear about that. And we've also heard, as you quite slightly said, that now they would not go ahead even if the money was there. So I think this is a very, very disappointing episode. I mean, I was campaigning for this facility back at the 2005 general election. It was in our campaign literature. So we've had a long battle over this, but I do regret the partisanship that's crept into this. I think there's too much unpleasantness in local politics, frankly. It does really get people's backs up, this sort of backbiting of who's responsible and who's done wrong. I'd like us to take this forward positively, try to work together across party and see if we can actually come together and put some pressure on the NHS, but as a council, but also working with a Member of Parliament. I try to see good in all people. I think some of the representations that the Member of Parliament has made have been rather inaccurate, if I put it politely, but let's put that to one side and let's see if we can come together and find a way forward. I think it's going to be hard, because the NHS, frankly, seem to be saying no at the moment. But I think if we can come together and start working together more effectively on this, there might be a chance to do something for the borough as a whole. And I think, let's try and keep that in the forefront of our minds. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to work for the people of the borough. We're not trying to work for parties, fundamentally. We're trying to work for the good of the borough. Of course, we'll have a few arguments about things occasionally, but let's not make it... Let's try and take some of the heat out of this, and let's try to move forward as a council and with the MP to make more progress.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Claire Allen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Regarding Councillor Bray's motion, probably you could clarify. You've previously repeatedly asked for a walk-in centre, mentioned a walk-in centre, we need a walk-in centre, and now this motion refers to a new urgent care centre. I'm sure you're aware that we already have one in Hinckley, easily accessible by 111. It's here on your phone and very easy to find and know where it is. So that's one point. I specifically raised my concerns at Planning Committee in July 25 about the letter to the Health Secretary. The frontage of the hospital was becoming an issue on social media, and I believe the letter was a political move for votes. Finally, at that planning committee, it beggars belief that a planning condition was proposed by Councillor Bray. This is a planning condition, and I quote, "The scaremongering by the Member of Parliament for Hinckley and Bosworth, who sought to distort the position taken by those who have tried constructively to deliver the new facilities while seeking a better building design, be condemned." He wasn't scaremongering, it's come to fruition. The result is we've lost the daycare unit, and the responsibility sits with this administration. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Claire Allen. Councillor Lynch.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Don't worry, I'm not going to join in that. I'm certainly not going to waste my time responding to the nonsense that Claire has just come out with. All I was actually going to say was to answer the question from Richard. If you recall, when I was talking about the capital programme, I mentioned, in effect, internal funding. We have quite a lot of money in the bank. We can't just use it because we have reasons for it, but it stays there for a long time, and we can use it from time to time to support things that we want to do. And one of them would be this. We could raise £2 million to support this over a period of time, and you'll notice that the reference in the motion is to a loan. Nobody's suggesting we're going to give it to them. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully support points 1 to 4 of the proposed motion. However, points 5 and 6, I do not feel I have adequate information to be able to support those particular proposed actions. So with that in mind, I'm unable to support the whole motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Michael Mullaney.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is extremely disappointing news. Many of us have fought for many years for improved investment and services in our local NHS. James refers, Councillor Moore, to when he was the parliamentary candidate in 2005, arguing for improved NHS facilities in Hinckley. I took over from him after that, and I've been arguing the case as well. So it's been argued for many years that we need improved NHS facilities locally. We have in the Hinckley urban area, if you include Hinckley, Burbage, Barwell and Earl Shilton, the second biggest population concentration in the county after Loughborough. And I gather that one of the arguments the NHS are putting forward for not carrying on with this proposal is that there isn't the demand for it. But clearly with that level of population, given that we have a population which is also contains a large number of elderly people, there clearly is the demand for improved NHS facilities, not least because under the last government, the Conservative government, and under this Labour government, we're being told to increase the size of the borough by a very substantial amount, well over 10,000 properties. So that is clearly going to mean that there will be an increased demand for NHS facilities. So I really hope that the NHS will think again about this decision. There is a need for improved health facilities in Hinckley and Bosworth. I think this really does just carry on a pattern, brings in really the previous debate in which the public services in Leicestershire and in Hinckley and Bosworth in particular are often put to the back of the queue, that we get way below average funding for health as well as the police and education and roads and transport and many other public services. And I think it's about time Hinckley got its fair deal, got a fair share of the NHS money and resources that we need, and it's time for the NHS to come together with this council, work with them and deliver the quality NHS facilities that people in Hinckley and Bosworth need.
Thank you, Councillor Mullaney. Councillor Webber-Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think Councillor Moore has been very generous about, working about comments made in the chamber this evening, because I am just increasingly baffled by some of the things that are being said. Richard, I think if I heard you correctly, you referred back in your speech to the CREM and said, after having a massive go at us in response to the leader's statement, sometimes these things happen. You also said that you don't need to fight the MP's battles, who has been on social media throughout today. Friends of mine have sent me all sorts of messages where, as a result of his comments, every member in this chamber has been described as an idiot. There are things being written all over the place about the decisions that have been made when we have tried to proactively work with the NHS, work with the ICB and other organisations to make this happen. So it creates the divisive politics when people fire off messages like that on platforms which are ill-considered and don't present the facts. And Claire, when you say that Councillor Bray was trying to make a move to get more votes, I think that's exactly what the MP for the area has been trying to do, actually. So I would echo Councillor Michael Mullaney's comments about actually trying to come together and do something. The divisiveness that has gone on, let's be really clear, has been caused by comments that have been put out there by the MP. That needs to stop. It's not the first time it's happened. It's happened over the local plan. It's happened over all sorts of issues. Back in the day when the Conservatives were running Westminster and causing us all sorts of trouble, and here we are again. They're not in government, but they're trying to kind of stir up all sorts of issues. It's exactly the sort of thing that we should be well and truly standing up and standing against, and we need to make a clear stand on this. So I disagree with you, Councillor Lambert. I'm afraid I think items 5 and 6 are absolutely critical in this motion, and critical around making a point about what we need to stand up for residents in this area. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Webber-Jones. Councillor Linda Hodgkins.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I quite agree with this motion, and I'm very, very disappointed in this hospital and the NHS putting everything down like this. It's just not working. Councillor Claire Allen rightly said, yes, you can dial 111. I had a chance to do that 2 weeks ago. I had to do it. And I had to go to Nuneaton in the middle of the night. I'm an old lady now. I've just turned 70 this week, and I don't want to be going all the way to Nuneaton in my gym jams. You know, so we need local people, we need local doctors, we need local walk-in centres. Not everybody is lucky enough to have a car. You know, we all think everybody can get anywhere, any transport. It doesn't work that way. We need local hospitals, we need a walk-in centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgkinson. Welcome to the band of 70-year-olds. I don't think we've got anybody else. Councillor Bowles, you reserved your comments. Do you want to speak now?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. And I'm going to start by saying, once again, Hinckley and Bosworth has been let down. Fundamentally let down and left behind. Every other area of this county is being invested in various different ways. What's that health scrutiny at County Hall a few weeks ago? And they were talking about brand new walk-in centres, brand new ones. I raised the point, Hinckley and Bosworth, definitely not. They're not going to get anything. Loughborough probably will get an improvement to theirs, more services there, but nothing for here. This is a pattern that is repeated time and time again, where this borough is left behind. It's not deserving of any real improvement. And I come back to the diagnostic centre. Yes, it looks shiny, there's new machines, but we've only got one extra thing we didn't have before. And this would have been the case here with the day case. We've got a day case unit there. The issue with the day case unit is it doesn't have oxygen that they need. It has to be kept somewhere separate. So we have wards there that is old-fashioned, outdated, they need renewing. We weren't getting something new, we were just getting something improved. These are the things that really grate on me, because actually we deserve more, not just a shinier version of what we already had. So that's my first thing on this. I also want to say that this was promised. This has been promised in different forums by different people. And once again, it's been forgotten about. So we were promised, and this is the literature that they produced, the ICB, a modern day case unit. That's the first thing. They were going to push through 2,000 patients a year. And to Councillor Hodgkin's point, where are those 2,000 people going to go now? To Nuneaton or Leicester? Half an hour in each way from New Bolverden, at least. And then finally they said, working in side by side with the CDC. So you have this beautiful joint hand approach, so you can get your scans, you can get your surgery, all in one place, under one roof. Actually, something that we deserve in Hinckley and Bosworth. So I won't steal Councillor Bray's lines from earlier, but there is a timeline to this. 2004, it got approval by the NHS. That's when they said this can go ahead. It went through government, it got government approval in 2024. And then it got planning approval in 2025. Now, Richard Allen pointed out a quote there about actually what they say the delay was. The delay was in them submitting it because they were trying to make plans work. That's what consultation is. They listen to residents' voices, to councillors' voices, and they amend plans. That isn't unique in this. That's every application that comes forward. That's what consultation is. So they listen to people, they listen to councillors, they listen to residents, and lots of residents, not just a few on social media, thousands came out in support of trying to retain some of these historic features. Now, if the MP had stayed in there longer than 5 minutes for his photo, he might have heard some of those comments, but he doesn't. He turns up with his dogs and disappears after 5 minutes. That is what he does time and time again. Useless. Not my words, the words of residents I speak to regularly when I knock on doors, unlike him who turns up for 5 minutes. So let's get the facts straight. This is from the ICB papers. Rising costs. That is a global problem with every single development, rising building costs. The next one, NHS debt. In Leicestershire, it's skyrocketing. They are freezing waiting lists again. They are cancelling operations. At the CDC, they've cancelled lists already because they can't afford to run them. They're being pushed back to Leicester because it's cheaper to run them there. So if you did your research, you might realise that. The next bit is they're changing how services are being offered. The ICB will no longer look like this. They're thinking of joining it up with Northampton. That will change the geographic shape and location of services being offered. And then finally, yes, we've heard enough capacity locally. I dispute that. I think with the building, I think that's a very, very big oversight. So what has this council done to overcome that? Well, we approve within timelines, as we've heard. We've supported everything, as councillors, attending everything. I've been on the Health and Wellbeing Partnership where it's been spoken about. And let's talk about the officers. I know, because I speak monthly with Simon Jones about what the officers are doing, working beyond their hours to try and make this happen, behind closed doors, different meetings. Again, this is where I get frustrated, because the MP doesn't attend any of those. He doesn't see this work. And when he puts the things on social media, like Robin Webber-Jones said, it smears everyone, regardless of party, including the officers. Everyone gets dragged under the same bus. So, also, this council brought in the NHS to this building. We embraced them and said, look, we understand you haven't got the capacity on that site. Come and join us. We've got the Jobs Centre here, the County Council work from here. We can have a centre where you can come, we've got free space, come and use it. We invited them in here. And yes, we offered them a loan that we can service and we can find a loan, not the money, a loan to help them, as we did before when the X-ray machine broke and they were twiddling their thumbs on that one. And then again, all we did was shared the voices of thousands of residents who were up in arms at heritage, which is being lost left, right and centre across the borough. Can we retain it? Please, can we retain something? So again, in the ICB papers, what actually delayed this? Price rises, COVID was mentioned, that old chestnut, that hasn't gone away, that delayed this decision. A change to the service model. And then the submission plans again. But again, this is this misinformation that's now gone out from our MP. We simply went above and beyond. We worked side by side. And all of these comments only serve to stir up the hatred that all of us, again, regardless of party, face daily. Whether you're a Conservative, whether you're a Labour, Lib Dem, an Independent, a Green, no matter what, you get accused of being bribed. You get accused of taking backhanders, that you're working in collaboration. None of it's true. We went above and beyond to make sure this was delivered. And it's cheap politics to say, oh, we didn't do enough. We scuppered this. We undermined the process. It's simply cheap politics. It isn't true. And you know it's not true. Because if you'd have sat in here and listened to the papers that got brought forward, you would know it's not. And again, I would challenge that Richard Allen has an interest in this because he's employed by the MP. So you can stand up for himself, but you're sitting there, you're employed by him, his voice is coming through you, so don't lie to me. So then, I finish with this. I am determined to get a better NHS service for Hinckley and Bosworth. I will do everything in my power through the Health and Wellbeing Partnership, through the Scoots Committee at County Hall, to make sure we get what we deserve. And I won't stop while I'm elected in doing that, because we deserve better. We have been failed again by the NHS. And yes, we should come together. But when comments like this are bandied around on the internet, when questions like this from the opposition tonight, it makes it impossible. You can't work hand in hand with that, because it's not conducive to conversation. So I hope the MP listens. I'm sure he'll be watching. You can show him tomorrow when you go into work. And you can get him to reply. Because this isn't acceptable anymore. We deserve better. And the only way we're going to get it is by fighting together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles. Councillor Bray, do you want to make any final comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I thank all COP members for their contributions to this debate, and I just particularly thank Councillor Bowles for his passionate speech at the end. Look, a lot of this is inevitably turned into the comments and the conduct of the MP. You know, when Luke Evans was elected, I thought he was a breath of fresh air in this constituency, I have to say. During COVID, I can't fault the man. He and I would text on a weekly basis to make, to talk about what the response of the council, the government, and everything else was doing. And I really thought, he was new and better than what we'd had before, although it couldn't really have been any worse. But then what happened? Well, Partygate. Then the economy crashed, and then the Conservative support nationally was going down and down and down and down. And he could see his majority going and potentially everything else. And so what happened was he decided he's adopted a strategy of throwing as many brickbats at the council as you got, in the hope that it'll get him some credit. As people have said, he's doing it over the local plan, and he's now doing it over this. He knows what he said in the House of Commons is not true. And I do hope that he acknowledges it. Councillor Bowles has repeatedly has made it very, very clear. 2 years before submitting that application, this council was talking to the NHS. It was them who delayed submitting the application, not us. And the difference, as I've said before, the difference between myself suggesting that some Victorian features be kept to us issuing consent was less than 4 weeks. Less than 4 weeks. It's just incredible for them to then turn around and say, oh, well, it's because of that. It's because of that it was all up in the air. Councillor Clare, some specific comments were made. Councillor Clare about walk-in centre. Yes, we have campaigned for a walk-in centre. We still campaign for a walk-in centre. We believe a walk-in centre is necessary. Let me give you a clue. In the title, walk-in centre, is that you could walk into the centre, not ring 111 and hope you get sent somewhere. It is very, very clear and very, very simple. This area has been let down time and time and time again. and it's politics, isn't it? It is absolutely politics, where you have got spineless MPs who won't stand up to Conservative governments at the time, or when you've got Labour governments who think that, well, we're never going to win that seat anyway. So that is the excuse about why they don't put money into our area. It is not a marginal seat. And just have a look through the things. Towns funds, Nuneaton next door, marginal seat, active MP, they get millions. We get something all. We really do. Yeah, and even when we do, and let's have a look at his taxpayer-funded leaflet that he's just put out, which are interesting to know how much that's cost us. You know, some of the things he's claiming credit for in there, the things like Twycross Zoo, that's the work of our officers. That's the work of our officers who's done that. So it's about time. Look, we've had a very bad-tempered debate here today, but now is the time to look forward. And I will extend this olive branch to Luke Evans and Co. A series of meetings are now being arranged with the NHS. Now it is time to work together to deliver for this borough. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bray. So thank you, everybody, for all your comments tonight. Very interesting. Anyway, the motion's been moved by Councillor...
Can we have a recorded vote, please, Mr Mayor?
By all means. All right, Becky? All right, we've got enough members standing. Thank you. Okay, we've been asked by Councillor Bray for a recorded vote, so Becky will call out your name. Please say whether you are for, against or abstaining the motion. Over to you, Becky.
Councillor Claire Allen. Abstain. Councillor Richard Allen.
Abstain.
Councillor Balls. For. Councillor Bray. For. Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Councillor Cook. Councillor Joyce Crooks. For. Councillor Bill Crooks. For. Councillor Fleming.
For.
Councillor Cathy Gibbons. For. Councillor Scott Gibbons.
For.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Hodgkins.
For.
Councillor Lambert.
Abstain.
Councillor Lynch. Councillor Moore.
Abstain.
Councillor Linda Mullaney. Councillor Michael Mullaney. Councillor O'Shea.
Abstain.
Councillor Pendlebury. For. Councillor Simmons.
Abstain.
Councillor Smith. Abstain. Councillor Surtees.
Abstain.
Councillor Sutton. Councillor Webber-Jones. Councillor Waitman. Councillor Williams.
For.
We have 17 votes for with 11 abstentions, therefore the motion is carried. Thank you very much. And that is the end of the business for tonight. Just before everybody dashes off, so I close the meeting at 20:36. But before class is dismissed, I've just got a couple of notices. First of all, on the 4th of March, it is my civic carol service down at St John's Church, and it's expected that you will all attend. No, civic service. Did I say carol service? Sorry.